Welcome back to another video. My name is Henrik from Nonstop Driving, and today we're going to be looking at the Peugeot 308 in the plug-in hybrid variant with the biggest engine that you can get. First generation came out in 2007, second one in 2013, and the third one in 2021. This is the one that we have right here. We're going to be looking at everything starting from 0 to 100 tests. We're going to look at the engine variants. We're going to look at a brake test. We're going to look at driving test, the interior, exterior, everything that you have to offer. So make sure to stick tuned. This car is going to set you back 29,000 in the starting point with the smallest engine, which is a 1.2 liter 3-cylinder engine, which is not very reliable. Then you also have this engine right here that we have, that's with all the extras, with the GT exterior package, almost 50,000, which is quite a lot. So let's look at everything that this car offers and let's get right into it. Let's take a look at the engine variants. Okay, so what we have for the engine variants is a couple of different ones. Because it is on the EMP2 platform, meaning the efficient modular platform, that's going to allow you, if I can get this thing to open, to have quite a lot of different variants here. Like I already said, a full electric variant, which came out last year. You have a plug-in hybrid version, so you have a total from 130 up to 225 horsepower, so you have quite a lot of different changes that you can get. You have the lowest engine is the 1.2 liter 3-cylinder, which is not very reliable and does require a lot of changing after like 60,000 kilometers or before that, because it does require very, very clean oil, and that oil needs to be very clean. But what you get, you can get a plug-in hybrid. Like I said, you can get a mild hybrid system with a 58 volt battery, and you also get a petrol and a diesel variant. So quite a lot that you can choose from, which is very nice and always nice to have that you can choose from a lot. But this doesn't have dampers, so you do actually have to plug it up normally. But we have the 1.6 liter 4-cylinder engine, which does produce 225 horsepower and 360 Newton meters. Claimed 0 to 100 in 7.5 seconds. So let's see if we can actually reach that. So we have turned on sport mode, and we have also kept traction control on because we already did a 0 to 100 test, and traction wise it is a little bit of an issue. And we also have the sport sound on, which only activates in sport mode. So it's a little bit of an artificial sound that we have here. Okay, no traction issues for me, but the kick wasn't that intense in my opinion. But 7.55, that's the exact same value that you had. But I didn't have any traction issues, so I would have expected a little bit more. But still, 7.55, and we do have winter tires on, so with summer tires, probably 7.2 something right around that range. And the design is also very nice in my opinion. Peugeot just works very nicely on their designs. We do have the, well, you can see we don't have the estate version. You can also get the SW variant. That's going to allow you to get a little bit more space on the back, just in general a little bit of a bigger car. It's going to cost you €1,000 extra for the starting price. We do have the olive green color on here, which comes standard with this car, which looks very, very nice in my opinion. The red on here also looks very nice. We have a big Peugeot logo on here. We have very nice and sleek, like aerodynamic touches in here. In general, I really, really just like the silhouette of this car. It looks very nice. We do have the 18-inch wheels on here. We do have the GT package, which does make it look a little bit more sporty. We'll see that especially in the front. We can see here very nice touches, almost like an aerodynamic like rims on here. They're not fully aerodynamic, and this is all plastic. 18-inch, like I said. We'll do a brake test here in a second. When we're talking about dimension, this car is going to be 1.44 meters tall. It's going to be 1.85 meters wide, and also 4 meters and 36.7 centimeters long. So a fairly compact car, which you obviously want for a city and a little bit of an not off-road, but a little bit of a country road car. Let's do our 0 to 100 brake test. Obviously we do have winter tires on here, so it is going to be a little bit, well, less optimal for the, whoa, that was a shortcut, for the, the blinkers, beep, 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 beep. 46 meters. That is a lot worse than what you got. So you got 43 meters, we did slide quite a lot. If we look at different comparison, you can see the list right now, that is a fairly, I'd say, bad value compared to the other cars that we have had with the winter tires in the same condition. If we had winter tires on here, obviously a little bit better, but I'm just gonna say probably not the best brakes that you can possibly get on this car. In the front we get this very, very big grille, which I really like, with all these little touches on here. We get the big new Peugeot logo on there with our front camera in the front. We do have the package in here, which does include a full 360-degree camera, which is nice. We have a nice matrix LED lights, which you do get with the GT variant. Otherwise you're going to get LED lights standard. And we have this big daytime running light going down the side, which just makes it very prominent and very sporty from the front, with these like fake intakes on the side and a little bit more intakes down here. In general, a very, very nice design in the front, in my opinion, in the GT variant especially. And the nice design continues on to the back. We have these lights on here, which we will look at here if we open the car. You can see it does like this little animation in there. Pretty cool, and I really like the design. Looks good from the back. We also have this full light going through down, well, not light, but we have this full bar going through. Peugeot logo down there. We do also have the rear view camera in here for full 360-degree camera, and we also have the bolts straight into the chassis there for our license plate, which is cool. And we also have a fairly squishy rear end here with fake blends on the bottom, which obviously, well, you can't hide them. I personally would have just removed them, but still a fairly good design from the back. One thing we did notice, if you try to lock the car, and you have the rear open, just if you don't completely close like this, you can see now it's not fully closed, it's not going to lock the car. Like, nothing is going to close. So if you accidentally leave the rear open a little bit, the whole car is unlocked and it's not going to lock at all. You can hear? It's not even doing a clicking sound now, but you're going to have to completely close this fully. Okay, now nothing is working. But it did just work. Maybe the battery's dead over this thing now. I don't know what just happened. But yeah, that is one thing you're definitely going to have to watch out for. So always make sure to completely lock this. While we're at this topic, let's also open the rear here. It is not an automatically openable rear door. We do have a fairly good space in here for a compact sedan. It's going to allow you 412 liters up to 1,200 or 1,323. If you get the plug-in hybrid, which we have here, it's going to be a little bit less, so 361 up to 1,271 liters. That's due to the fact that the battery is behind the rear seat, so you have a little bit of less storage space. You do have a little bit of storage space down here, but really you can just put like a blank sheet of paper down there. And the cables are going to take up quite a lot of space, so I definitely recommend taking those out. We do have the 7.4 kilowatts an hour charging, well, 7.4 kilowatts charger cable in there as well. But in general, fairly good back. We do also, if you want, you can put a towing hitch down here for 1,550 kilograms. That's a lot of background noise. Jetzt geht's wieder. Top. Okay, so let's drive the car. One thing that you are going to notice as soon as you start the car, it's always going to start in electrical mode. So what you can do is change between the modes. We got sport, hybrid and electrical. I like to drive in hybrid because it just uses both of them. And then we have this knob just like in an Opel or a Vauxhall, as it is the same platform. So it's in general, it's Stellantis platform. Let's first of all do a little turning circle test, because this turning circle is actually fairly small on this. So we're going to go straight and then we're going to go full in 10.5 meters, and you can see that is very nice, and you're going to be able to turn very nicely in the city and just allow you to park fairly decent with those dimensions. Obviously fairly comfortable driving in the city with this car. So the electrical mode in here is going to be a 12.4 kilowatts battery, which is fairly big. That's going to allow you to get in range up to around 63 kilometers. We have been driving this a little bit. You can see we're just at around 75%, and we would now get around 30 kilometers. That is not completely accurate. I have driven this when I first picked it up. I drove around 52 kilometers of pure electrical range on this, which is fairly decent. Obviously recharging or recuperation is going to help a little bit with that as well. That you are going to be able to charge it if you get the optional 7.4 kilowatts charger in around an hour and 55 minutes, depending on if you have a wall box that is able to accommodate 11 kilowatts. So you do need one that is going to be able to charge at that speed. Otherwise, you're just going to be looking at around, I personally charge it at home. We do have a wall box, but it's like this, I think it goes up to 6.4, something like that. And it took 8 hours, so it was only charging at the speed that you plug in if you plug it into your home, so around 1.8 kilowatts or 2.1 depending on whatever you have. So a fairly decent range. If you want to plug it in at home, you can have it and drive this towards work or whatever you want, and it just dropped by 2 kilometers. That's actually fairly decent. That was a pretty fair drop. One thing that is very interesting about this car is obviously the steering wheel. The steering wheel does, well, just like in any Peugeot, it's just really, really tiny. and it's interesting. You have this grip in here where you put your thumb. Is fairly tiny. I do have fairly small hands, so it's okay for me, but if you have a little bit thicker hands, it's going to be very uncomfortable having your thumbs in there, and in general you're going to have to get used to the steering wheel. The buttons on here, everything is great, but it's just very tiny, and therefore you're going to have to sit a little bit higher up because it also blocks the view in here. I would personally like to sit a little bit lower, but then I would also have to put the steering wheel a little bit lower or higher so I can look through, but that's just a very weird way that you're going to be sitting, and this is the best that I've found. You also have a 3D digital cockpit. You can turn that off and on. Yeah. Why is it doing that like high-pitched sound right now? What is that?
I thought the same. It's very loud.
Yeah, I don't... Okay, now it's gone a little bit. Maybe just the road is a little bit weird. I haven't had that before. Yeah, that's a very high noise. Okay, now we don't have it anymore. Right? Yeah, I can't hear it anymore. So it probably was just the road. But the sound in here is actually very decent. You are fairly well isolated, especially when you're driving this. It's very comfortable driving it from A to B. It has a good isolation. The sound system in here as well, it's the focal sound system. Okay, there's still a little bit of a noise, but I think that is just tire noise. Is the focal sound system, which actually is surprisingly good with 690 watts, which is fairly high. Very nice system in general. I really like the layout of the interior with this big display in here. It reminds me a little bit of an RS3, to be honest. Like this interior and also the bar going all the way through. A little bit of an RS3 design in here, which I really like because that is just a beautiful interior. But really nice design. Obviously, if you get the lowest one, which is going to be the active pack, you're not going to have this touchscreen. It's called the iCockpit. You're not going to have that if you choose that. You're going to have, I think, physical buttons or something else. I don't know exactly. In the configurator, it looks a little bit weird, but you have these like shortcuts, which I really do like. An infotainment display is fairly nice. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, both wireless, which are working very nicely as well. So let's talk a little bit about the dynamic of this car, because this is, the steering wheel wants you to go sporty. That's what the steering wheel really intends you to do. But the car is fairly heavy, 1.7 tons, because it is a plug-in hybrid. If you compare it, for instance, to a Coupe Reliant that he personally drives, same weight, also plug-in hybrid, almost the same horsepower, also 1.7 tons, 1.6, something like that. So a fairly heavy car for the capabilities that the car wants you to have because of the steering wheel. If you drive like this, it is a front-wheel drive system, and it does just put all the power to the front. With 225 horsepower and 1.7 tons, just doesn't give you the most experience or the most agile experience. I'm obviously not in sport right now, but I'm just going to tell you what I've felt so far. The car does get from 0 to 100 in 7.5 seconds. It does perform very well on the highway. That is definitely one thing that I was very surprised with this car. It keeps up. It goes from 150 up to 180 very well, even if you don't have any range left. I drove at 200 something kilometers on the Autobahn, and it was very smooth sailing, and also very, very elegant with overtaking and stuff like that. You also have massage function in these seats. You have memory functions. You have this Alcantara stuff on these seats, which are very, very comfortable. And in general, a very, very nice like A to B driving car. It feels very nice. The seats are very nice, like I said. And in general, a very good quality here as well. The quality in this is surprisingly good, especially, well, I mean, you're paying 50,000, but if you're looking at other car companies, for instance, Volkswagen, for 50,000, you would not get this quality in here. You get very good quality. Even up here, you don't have hard plastic. You have like this little fabric up here, and then on top, you also have fabric, which is really, really nice, and I love to see it. When we're talking about fuel consumption, it is okay. It's a little bit higher than I would have expected, to be quite fair. And you can change between here. If you press on the side, you can change the view. So it does show you, okay, zero emissions for the last 50 or the 56% of the drive has been zero emissions since we started. But then if we press it again, we can see our trip 1, which is 290 kilometers with an average speed of 60 kilometers an hour, 6.2 liters. Keep in mind, around 150 kilometers of those were without any battery left. And then this is one that I took. This is basically the highway trip, 200 kilometers, 7.2 liters. The first 20 kilometers were electric. Afterwards, it turned out to be non-electric. So fairly high consumption. If you're driving on the Autobahn, I was driving at around 150. I got an average consumption of around 7.4 liters, 7.2. So it's actually fairly doable, but still a little bit higher than you might expect from your normal car in this segment. If you're obviously driving plug-in hybrid, that's going to be completely fine because you're just going to be zero emissions all the way through. Ride quality as well, fairly good suspension. One thing I did notice, a little bit is also the brake and the recuperation system. If you're braking and you're going off the brakes, and then, or let's put it this way, if you're braking, the recuperation kicks in, and then afterwards the normal brakes kick in, and the transition between that is a fairly harsh transition, and sometimes it feels like you're just constant on the throttle, on the brake, like this. And as soon as the brakes kick in, it feels like you're a little bit like 10% more on it. So it's a little bit of a harsh transition, which is not the greatest. And also for the space in the back, because we do have the smaller variant, not the SW variant or the Estate variant, obviously you are going to be limited with a little bit less space in there, but still okay if you're over the height of around 1.84 or 83, so 6'1", 6'2". In the back you are going to have a little bit of a headroom issue, so you are going to hit your head on the top, because it's a hatchback. It's slanted a little bit on the back, so that's one issue. Knee room's also not the biggest, but still comfortable in the back. And you have 2 USB-Cs in there, so you got quite a lot of stuff in there as well. So for a little bit of longer trips, also completely doable. In the front, design-wise, like I already said, you have inductive loading space in there. You have USB-C 2 ports in down here as well, or 1 port and 1 down there. And in general, a very nice layout with different modes. Like I said, we do also have brake mode, so if you do want to use that for a little bit more efficient driving, you can have that, especially in the city. That is a very nice feature. And then especially up here, you also have leather up there, and design-wise, really, really well done. That's one thing, Peugeot, they are just great with the design, in my opinion. And the other thing is the surrounding view is also fairly decent. The window in here is very slanted, so I am hitting my head a couple of times with my cap right here. But otherwise, rear view window is also fairly decently sized. And surrounding view, I'm not feeling like I have... I mean, the surrounding view is so great that I can even see that wonderful car in the front there. Jeez, it's an SF90, isn't it? I don't know about the color scheme, but that looks really, really nice. Okay. Oh, God, the silver on the back, I don't know. Looks a little bit of a not so nice color scheme, in my opinion. Okay. While we're here at the traffic light, let's also quickly look at the rear view camera. We'll look at that in a second here. There you go. This actually at night is a very well quality camera. Looks very nice. We also have a 360-degree camera. You can look at this, so you can park nicely front and also the back. Quality wise, very, very high quality. I really do like that. So what do I think in conclusion of this car? Well, if you're going for the GT line, don't expect to get too much sportiness. Obviously you do have a 4-cylinder in here, so not too bad of an engine, but it just doesn't allow you to get that experience because the car also weighs quite a bit with that 1.7 tons. Otherwise, design-wise, it's amazing. I personally love it. One of the best looking compact sedans or SUVs, compact cars that you can get in the segment. In my opinion, competitors are, for instance, an Audi A3. You got a Cupra Leon. You got, if you get for the bigger one, the Cupra Leon Sports Tourer, stuff like that. I really do like the design of it. Also, with if we did already take a look at the Opel Astra, that was also a very nice design. But I think this one is just a little bit more, and those are basically the same cars when it comes to the segment. Otherwise, a good car if you're getting the lower trims. Obviously the engine, you're gonna have to look out. Don't go for the 1.2 liter engine. That's not the most reliable, or you're just gonna have to look out for it very, very well. So hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Make sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time, and bye-bye. Woo!